Hello and welcome to another critical hit wargaming painting tutorial. Today we're going to take one of the models we painted in the speed painting session, in this case an Imperial Fist Intercessor, and we're going to take it up to Parade Ready Standard or Tabletop Plus or Silver Standard, whatever you want to call it. We're going to add some more detail and really get it popping and standing out on the tabletop. And so here's where we left it off before. It's a perfectly good intercessor. It's painted, it's based, and it looks pretty sharp. What we're going to do now is we're going to add some extra techniques, mainly some edge highlighting to all of the model, and that is going to make it really stand out and make it go from looking like this through to looking like this. Now, as you can see, there's only some subtle differences, but they really add to the overall effect of the model and make it look a lot more professionally done, shall we say, than it would do normally. So without further ado, let's find out how we get to that step. First things first, gather together the intercessors or Imperial Fist models you've done so far. Everything we're about to do can be painted over the top of what you've already done, so nothing you've done so far is wasted. First of all, you're going to need Dorn Yellow. Now you're going to put this on a palette or a wet palette if you've got one, and you're going to make it a little bit more runny than you normally would. Just add a little bit more water to that paint. That's going to make it flow better off the brush. Now you should do this with any paint you're using to edge highlight. I'm going to get my detail brush and we're going to use that to start our edge highlighting. First step is to take our Dorn Yellow and edge highlight all of the armor panels on our intercessor. Now, this is a very time consuming step. It can take up to 20 minutes of the 30 minutes extra we're spending on this model. As you can see there, I'm just going around all of the edges of all the details and giving it a nice highlight, and that's going to make everything stand out. Just keep gradually working your way around, getting all of those panels. Stop and have a look every now and then, make sure that there isn't anything that you've missed. If you do make any mistakes, you can just get your Uriel yellow out again and just neaten up the lines as you go around. Keep making sure and keep checking your paint and making sure that it is nice and wet so that it flows off the brush nicely. And by the end of it, it should look something like this. I've gone around all the panels you can see there, even the circle bit of his knee. I've gone around his helmet, the top of his helmet, above his eyes, slightly under his eyes. I've just gone over those panels that you can see there. Although it's not an edge, Games Workshop Heavy Metal team tend to paint those panels as well, so I've done that on our model. There's one area left to highlight with our Dorn Yellow, and it's a bit of a strange place to highlight because again it's not really an edge, but the heavy metal team tend to do it, so we're going to do it on our model once again, and that is just the inside of the panel. So you're not going to go right up to the edge of the red, you're going to leave a little gap where that Agrax Earthshade is settled, and then on the yellow itself you're going to paint a really fine Dorn Yellow line, and that's all around the edges, as you can see that I'm just painting there. As you can see, with all of those highlights done, the model's really standing out a lot more than it was. We've really taken it to the next level here. We're going to move on to something else now. We're going to use Khorne Red, and that's going to be to bring back up the dark red of the shoulder pads and the Aquila. Last time we left it with an Agrax Earthshade wash over it, but that's really dulled the red down. So we're going to bring it back up with Khorne Red. Now, when it comes to painting the Aquila on his chest, you want to make sure that you just catch what would be the feathers of the wings, so to speak. So leave all of the recessed areas shaded with Agrax Earthshade and just try and catch those raised areas. Next up is Evil Sun Scarlet, and we're going to use that to highlight all of the red areas. Starting with the shoulder pads, we're just going to run the edge of our brush along the edge of the panel, and that's going to give it a nice highlight. It gets a little bit more difficult when you've got to do the inside edge of the armor panel, or the bit that's closest to the yellow. You have to be really careful going along there. If you do happen to overspill into the area you've highlighted before, see if you can go over it with Dorn Yellow. Or worst case, just run a little bit of Agrax Earthshade along there and then go over it with Dorn Yellow. Once that's done, it should look something like this, and we can start moving on to the next highlight stage, and that's going to be to use Mechanicum Standard Grey, and we're going to start highlighting the black. The black areas we're going to do are the black on the gun casing, and we're going to pick out the raised areas of his ridged under armour in the gaps between his armour, and just stick a little line of Mechanicum Standard Grey on there. Now, if you happen to make any mistakes at this stage, you can just use Abaddon Black or Corvus Black or any black that you have, just to tidy it up a little bit. Once we're done with that, we're going to switch to Administratum Grey, and that's going to be to add a final edge highlight just on the corners of the sharpest edged panels on the weapon and on his under armour. With that done, we're going to highlight some brown. We're going to use Gorthor Brown for that. In this case, we're just going to edge highlight just as we have done with everything else, with a slight exception that we can put a couple of lines across the middle where there's some very subtle raised areas to give the impression of a slight crease. With the brown done, we're going to switch to Stormhost Silver, and that is to highlight the metallic areas. We're going to go around his gun casing and then spin him around and do the vents on his backpack. Nice, simple step. The last thing we're going to highlight with Stormhost Silver is the gold detailing on his bolt rifle, and we're just going to do the same thing that we did on the Aquila on the chest and just pick out what would be the feathers of the wing along the top, and then a little bit on the top of the skull to give that a bit of a highlight. So here it is, our finished parade ready Imperial Fist intercessor. Just adding that one layer of highlights has really made the model pop. Although it looked good at the end of the speed painting tutorial and was perfectly good to get on a table and do battle, giving you a really nice looking army, this has just taken it to that next level. So if you find that you've used your models in a few games and you think, I've got some time on my hands, I don't really want to buy any more units, I'm going to go back to my intercessor units and I'm going to make them as good as I can, then using these steps will really improve them. Now the total time for painting this model, including the speed painting step before, was just shy of an hour, 55 minutes or so. But it really shows what you can do in not a lot of time. That's only 10 hours painting for an entire model of intercessors, which is still not a great deal of time. Some people spend a lot longer than that painting something to not quite as good a standard. If these have helped you, please do like and subscribe, or add any suggestions you like on Reddit or on YouTube, and I will endeavour to explain things or do a tutorial for a model that you'd like to see done. Thanks very much for watching.